Good evening. It is Tuesday, July 17th, 2021 at 6 p.m. My name is Joe Baker, and as Mayor of Kenedy, Texas, it is my honor to welcome everyone here tonight and call this regular meeting of the Kenedy City Council to order. I will now call the roll and establish whether or not a quorum is present. District 1, Councilmember Cindy Sines. Councilmember Sines is not with us this evening. District 2, Councilmember John Rodriguez. Here. District 3, Councilmember Chris Parker. Here. District 4, Councilmember James Douglas. Here. District 5, Councilmember Sandra Schultz.
Here.
4 members of the City Council are present, and we have a quorum present this evening. If I could ask everyone to rise for a prayer to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, please be with us this evening as we do the best things and make the wisest decisions for the people of this community here in Kenedy, Texas. We are thankful to you every day for all the blessings in our life, and be with us this evening as we work together to do what's best for our community and for all the people who live in Kenedy, Texas. For it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is citizen comment. I believe we have one citizen comment signed up for this evening. Shara Guajardo, is that, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, it's Guajardo.
Ms. Guajardo, if you'll please come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shara, and I am the manager at Park Place Landing Apartments in Kenedy. And I have a small concern. Back in September, we had some water bill issues. We had been discussing things with Mr. Lynn, and in October, he had told us that, because we got new meters, that he had said our old meter would go out for an independent inspection, and we would get a report on that. And until we got that report, that we agreed to pay $4,500 a month on our bill until this was resolved. We got notice that we had 48 hours to pay our bill, or the water is going to be shut off on the 16th. This is a concern to me because obviously I have an 80 rooms that need water. But I mean, I have proof that our bills were always consistently about $4,700. Starting in August, it went up to 7, and then it went to 13, and then it went to 20, and that's where we started saying, hey, you know, something's wrong with our bill. We would really like y'all to look into this. Never could we get a report that showed why. We did get told one time, hey, we'll give you a credit. We're like, hey, that's great. What's the credit for? We couldn't get an answer of what that credit would be for. So they said, we're going to do a profile, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Since we've had our new meter, everything is great. Our bill has, again, been consistently the same. But our worry and our concern at this point is our water being turned off without us have ever gotten this independent inspection report or profile on why that water was that amount. I feel like that we at least need to, Mr. Lynn needs to keep that he said on October 29th that we could get $4,500, and our water would not be shut off until this was resolved. So we're just asking for that to be withheld, or to be held up. So, is there any questions? I mean, I have all the paperwork here, I have all of our bills here. I've been with the company a really long time. I'll tell y'all, last year in 2019, we kind of had the same thing happen around the same time. Don't know why. It was resolved with a credit, But I'm just asking for an explanation or for somebody to help us out with this matter.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention. As a public comment, we're kind of limited as to how we can respond.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you bringing this issue forward, and I have your contact information, so I'll be in touch with you soon to see if we can work something out.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is departmental reports, Public Works Director report. Sorry, your time's not up. That's a word. Good evening, sir.
I apologize, I wasn't paying attention. Good afternoon, council, mayor, glad to be here. I'll just start off, if y'all have my reports here, I'm going to make this as quick as I can, but I spent most of last month working on TCQ reports and documentation for stuff that we had done in the past, and you'll see that under the first page there under TCQ of reports and documentation that I've been working on for things that the city needed to take care of. As far as projects go, Mr. Lynn will be more in depth with that as we go, especially with the water wells and stuff, I'm sure. We do have one item coming up that we're trying to get done by September of this year. They're replacing the bridge, and I apologize if I get the road name wrong, but I believe it's Helena Highway there across Escondido Creek. That bridge there, TxDOT is fixing to replace that bridge. And we have a water line that's like 5 feet off of that bridge, and when the water's down, you can clearly see it. It's in bad shape right through there anyway. So we've got to relocate that, and so we're working with TxDOT. We're trying to get some prices for an engineer to help with that and the TCQ side of it, so we can get that moved and take care of that. So that's kind of a pressing issue there. The Graham Road water line that we replaced on Graham Road was complete last month, and I believe all the documentation has been turned in for that. We're still working on the Kenedy Apartments water line extension that will come up eventually. The plans have been submitted to TCQ. We're just waiting on a reply from them to move forward with that project. On the water meter replacement program that we started several months ago, it started out with a boom. It's kind of got to a fizzle stage where we're trying to eliminate meters that are not being taken out of the program. It's being duplicated back in, and first one thing and another. I believe most of that can be cleared up with some paperwork. Well, not paperwork, but working with the apps. We show that we have approximately 189 meters still out there, but when we go through the list, this one's been replaced, this has been replaced. So we just got to go back, and I'll have a truer number for you next month on exactly where we are with everything. And a lot of the larger meters that we had to replace, we didn't account for because I didn't have an actual 100% accurate count when I ordered these meters. So we've had to make some adjustments kind of through the end, and then there was a back order on some of these too. So I do apologize for dragging this out, but we're miles ahead of where we were this time last year. And it seems to be working really great. We just got a few odds and ends to clear up, and hopefully we'll have that taken care of. On the training activities, I have obtained, which I mentioned last month, but it happened in June, so I'm going back to June. The political pesticide applicator license for the vector and the herbicide. And Cody Bryan has completed a 20-hour groundwater production class to go toward getting his C groundwater license. And then if you want to go on over to the next page, which is page 1, we pumped out, we produced from the wells, we produced potable water side 39.3 million gallons of water through the RO for the month. We had approximately 1,614 connections for the month. Meters that we actually read, but on file, TCEQ says we had 3,133. Most of that's brought on because of the prison and the way they do the math. Page 2. Again, this is the water loss report. You can see that we accounted for 37.6 million gallons of water. We had a water loss of 1.7 million, which gives us 4.54% on the water loss for the month. And then on page 3, we've got our water stage restriction report, where I show the daily pumpage and the percentage of where we are in that stage. And you can see there was only one day that we actually hit in stage 1. So at this time I still recommend that we stay in the stage 2. And right now our numbers are really looking great. A lot of that is contributed to all the rain. When it rains, people use less water. And then on page 4 is our service order, our work order report, where I keep up with how many work orders, service calls, and things that we do throughout the month. And you'll see that we did 790 for the month of June. And it's also a running total from October. I do the fiscal year on this spreadsheet from October to June. And then on page 5, we have the monthly operating report for the wastewater plant. We had 33.5 million gallons go through the plant, treated effluent. And over here on the rain section, we had 5 inches of rain that we accounted for the month of June. I think we've already surpassed that going forward for next month. And then you'll see the next page, we had page 6, we had one SSO where we sent TCEQ documentation of a wastewater spill. And then the next page is a page that I put together, page 7, which is water produced from the wells versus effluent from the wastewater plant. It's just a comparison, so I can kind of see, lets me kind of know how our wells are doing versus our effluent from the wastewater plant, and our sewer lines, basically. And you can see with 5 inches of rain, we had 50,290 gallons go through the wells. Now this report here, it goes from from the first of the month to the last of the month. The other reports, most of those go from meter reading to meter reading when we do the water loss report. So that's why these well numbers are different. So if you happen to catch that. So that's 50 million and then 33 million through the wastewater plant, which is only a difference of 17 million gallons. And again, 5 inches of rain. That's just a little something I keep up with so I can kind of see and compare, because you should never have more go out of your wastewater plant than what you pump out of your wells. It's kind of something I do on my own curiosity. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the council for Mr. Higgins? I just want to thank you for making the extra effort to get your license to be able to, for example, spray for mosquitoes, which you did recently. And Chief, that event in the park was wonderful, and I wasn't touched by a single mosquito the whole time. So that's a great benefit to the people of Kenedy, and I appreciate it. I've had people reach out to me from other towns who said, "How are you able to spray for mosquitoes? We've been told that's not possible in our towns." And I said, "Yeah, it is if you take the right steps and you have someone who's licensed it's not as expensive as a lot of people probably think it's cost prohibitive to do something like that. So I just want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. Were there any sewer line backups with this recent heavy rainfall that we had? We had close to 8 inches at our house last week. Were there any sewers that backed up to any homes in Kenedy?
Yes, sir.
How many roughly?
I have no idea. I had a report of one in an area, but I'm sure there was a lot that backed up. But as far as anybody calling me, I only had one call on Robin Hood.
So nothing to your knowledge to the extent that there was major damage to any homes? Then.
Not that reached me, no, sir. Now, if it got to City Hall or one of the council members, but as far as I know, only one person called me, and then I called them back, and then he called me again, and we talked, and Mr. Lynn and I, we discussed it some in our meeting Monday about some infrastructure and stuff, and some plans that we've got moving forward. Hopefully we'll remedy that, but that's a lot of water, and it's got to go somewhere. I'm sure Mr. Rodriguez can tell you that the infrastructure here is in bad shape. It's very old. I think a lot of this was put in early 1900s, and it's still, so we have a lot of eye and eye. And that is something that we need to look at going forward. And I believe there's some grant stuff out there that will be talked about later as we go forward.
Any other questions for Mr. Higgins from the council? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Police Chief report. Chief Ash.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. I'll be brief, try to be brief on these things. On our animal control, I told you last month we were trying to replace our missing person. We have identified somebody. We're working through the hiring process to get him done hopefully this week, and early next week we'll get him on board. And so that we'll have our second animal control person back. So Ernie won't be quite so covered up. For the month, he did 34 service calls, picked up 17 dogs, 21 cats. More and more cats were picking up. Also picked up 1 snake and 2 possums. He did issue 2 warnings and 1 citation. I can tell you that the last couple of weeks or month or so, he's been focusing more on stray cats. Just on our area around our building, picked up 5 of them last 2 days. This is just kind of a continual problem. He keeps catching them, but they breed so rapidly, it becomes a problem. So he's been kind of focusing his area on trying to catch those cats. For the police, we had 80 hours of outside training this month. Our officers went through different trainings. This is an area of focus we really work on. We've been really trying to get our officers to level up their next certificate levels, and so the training is real important. We also held our in-service training for this last month. And we do this twice a year. We bring all our officers in at one time, and we focus on 1 or 2 areas. This training was focused on evidence collection and evidence submission, how to do that all correctly. It becomes very important, particularly when you go to court, whether evidence is correctly submitted and taken care of. Our next in-service should be the end of the year. We'll be doing actual physical training, baton training, and some other things that I want to start doing as well. So we're moving forward on that. Park patrol. So as you know, we have our school resource officer doing the park patrol this summer. Last week she was gone in training, but she's mainly been doing the park patrol. Seems to be helping. I get almost no complaints at the park. It seems to be really nice down there. Again, we lost the park for a few days, Escondido Park, because of the rain. I don't know if y'all saw some of the pictures, but our call boxes out there, the water was halfway up our call box, so it tells you how high that water really got. So, but she's been working on that. Last, I did want to, I don't know how much y'all pay attention when I give you my crime reports, the numbers. I try to do them in a graph so you can just kind of see them a little bit better. It helps me understand when I look at graphs. But if you notice on our crime trends, our property crime is still staying fairly low and below average from what it used to be burglary, thefts, those kind of things are actually staying kind of below average. Our violent crime has jumped up. And when I saw the number this month, I thought I would mention this number because it's substantially higher than normal. But that is part of a trend in the country. There was a White House meeting yesterday talking about police leaders about violent crime in this country, how it's jumped up so dramatically in the last few months. So we're not alone in that. Almost all of our violent crimes, and you see those numbers, are almost always an assault. We don't really get sexual assaults. These are usually assaults. And almost all of them are family related, family violence calls. You do occasionally have non-family members assault each other, but it's kind of unusual. Almost all of those are through family violence. Sorry, telemarketing is bothering me. That, like I said, is part of a national trend. It's not unique to Kenedy. I'm not really sure of the causes of that. There's some people that say that it's because they've been cooped up for a year and a half, and now they just kind of lost their minds when they get back out. But we'll track that a little bit, and hopefully that will start to peak back down a little bit. But I saw those numbers. I figured somebody would ask me, so I put it on there. Go ahead and put it ahead of time. But those numbers are dramatically higher than they were in the past. And I believe that's it. Unless you have questions.
Any questions for the chief from the council?
Chief, that female officer that you have patrolling the park, she patrols both parks, right?
Escondido and the sports
our
complex,
park, right?
yes. And she's been using the car, but also the golf cart. Depending on weather and how many people are down there, if there's a lot of people, she'll get the golf cart and go down and interact with them. And if there's a game going on at the sports complex, she'll go spend time there. Yes.
Yeah.
Chief, I know you said that the water rose about to where the call boxes were. Was there any damage to the call boxes because of that?
No. So the one on 5th Street, we were able to test again, and it worked so fine. The other one back by the pump jack also was up, but just haven't been able to get back to it yet. It's still kind of messed up, but we'll test it the next few days. But it appears that everything survived. The boxes are sealed, with the exception of the area around where the speaker box is, maybe the only area. So they said as long as the water didn't get there, we'll be fine, but water got up to the speaker boxes. So when we set them up there, Sarah said, we talked to Sarah, and, oh no, that flood, you're up out of the floodplain there and shouldn't be any problem. And wow, that water got way up there.
If it is damaged, can it be inexpensively replaced, just that component, or will the whole thing have to be replaced?
I don't know. It depends on what's damaged. But if you open up inside, you should be able to just take one piece out. They're like individual pieces and parts.
Components.
But, yeah, but so far they seem to be working just fine. So they survived.
Any other questions for the chief? Again, Chief, I want to thank you for what your department. I know all the city employees were involved, as well as our volunteer firefighters. But for the Independence Day celebration that was hosted at Joe Gully Park was wonderful. The movie, the fireworks, the whole thing was a great event. It was. I think there must have been about 1,000 people out there. Just rough ballpark guess, but it was a big crowd, and everybody seemed to be having a wonderful time. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Sure. I can tell you we went through about 500 bottles of water, 300 bags of popcorn, and we could have done more popcorn. We handed out 100 or so Frisbees, 400 of glow sticks. So yeah, there were definitely a lot of people there.
Big turnout, a successful event. But thank you for bringing that to us, and it was Mr. Lynn, thank you, and everybody else who was involved. That was a wonderful event.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is the departmental report for building department and code compliance. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. First item is going to be the building department. Building department report for June 2020, though we had a slight decrease in construction permits. We did have an increase in call-ins and complaints. We did look into those call-ins and complaints, and you can see them in your report. Because of the abundance of rain, I think the permit we issued out were kind of low for the month of June, but we expect that to go up for the month of July, for this month, and so on, weather permitting. If you look at your report, we had residential building permits. We had 1 plumbing permit, 7 electrical permits, 2 HVAC, which are AC permits, and 11 building permits. With that, we had residential inspections. We had 1 plumbing inspection, 19 electrical inspections, and 1 HVAC inspection. The commercial side, we had 1 commercial building permit that was issued, and 1 commercial building inspection that included electrical. The department also submitted a plan review, 1 structural plan review to our third-party review team, Bureau Veritas, for approval, and that is still being approved at this time. We did have 3 zoning violations, which are illegal RV placements that are placed in the city. We had 9 dangerous buildings, dilapidated structures, letters that were issued to property owners. We had 4 warnings that were issued. These warnings were issued via mail. In the mail, they basically stated that they were not any type of violation at this point, but they were just giving them a courtesy, a warning to go ahead and try to fix the violation. So that's what those 4 warnings were issued. And then we had 7 violation letters that were actually issued to property owners for the month of June. With that being said, there's a breakdown of the building department report in Excel form. You can see all the individual complaints that we got for every day for the month of June. For future current projects that we got going, future current project, we do have, we'd like to announce that we are having the tire roundup July 24th, excuse me, on a Saturday from 8 to 12. We'll be having a semi-trailer park coming in Friday, and then we'll be parked at 201 School Street. We encourage all the citizens of Kenedy, to come out and dispose of their used and old tires. That's a service that's provided by the city, that has been provided by the city for many years, and we look forward to having a great tire roundup as we always do every year. So that's one of the future projects that we have. New businesses in Kenedy. As far as businesses go, we have 2 businesses that are opened up. La Cabana, which is they serve, I guess, to-go drinks, margaritas, so on. That's located off of Bel Air Boulevard. And then we also have a barbershop that's opened up here in town as well. Those are 2 new businesses that have not been in the city before, that have come into the city and opened up business-wise. So we do have 2 businesses that came into the city. That will wrap up the building department report. If you look at the code compliance report, the code compliance report was done by, of course, Mr. Barnes. Mr. Barnes did have 5 closed cases. Those are cases that he went ahead and sent violation letters. They complied, so we have 5 closed cases and 5 compliant. We have an active of 16 cases that are active around town. You can see the addresses where they're currently the active cases. We do also have 2 statements that were issued to property owners. Actually, there was 3. We have one for $150, and then we have one for $290. The other one was for $27,000 plus for the property that we cleaned on 2nd Street, what we call the pile of bricks over there on 2nd Street. So those owners got the bill, and they're given 30 days to submit payment. If they don't submit payment, we will file liens on those 3 properties. Then we have, if you go down below that, no liens were filed for the month of June. Above that, it said that there's 2 liens that were filed, but actually there were no liens filed for the month of June. As far as our collection station goes, we had 42 residents that utilized the collection station. And again, we're still trying to utilize the collection station as much as possible. and try to increase those numbers and try to get the word out to the citizens that the dump is there for them to dispose of any trash. We encourage them not to place it on the curbside. We encourage them to throw it at the collection station. We're open, again, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and on Saturday. So we're trying to still pass that word out to the citizens that this is a service that's provided to our citizens. That will complete my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the council for Mr. Alvear? I just want to say thank you for getting that giant pile of rubble removed on 2nd Street. Quite a few complaints about that. It's been there quite a while, hasn't it?
It's been over about a year and a half, but we went ahead and took care of this.
It's good to drive past there and see it gone now, so thank you for that. The collection station, I had some people reach out to me about the collection station. There still seems to be some confusion about the dates and hours. Mr. Lynn, is there some way we might be able to make that more prominent on the city website?
Yes, sir.
And I think that might be a good thing. I think it's just easy for people to forget which days it's open and which days it isn't. So
We'll construct something, put out there to where people see it a little bit more, it's a little bit more clear as to what's going on.
any other questions for Mr. Alvear? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Next item on the agenda under departmental reports, Streets and Parks Director report. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody? We'll go ahead and start off with the streets. As far as the streets and mowing, crew mowed or hand patched and graded for a total of 17 days using 33.2 cubic yards of type D plus material and 37.4 cubic yards of wrap material during the month. The crews also patched 83 potholes on a 10-day stretch using 17.1 cubic yards of type D plus asphalt, as well as for a total of 90.3 cubic yards. The crews worked on drainage for 6 days, used 37.2 cubic yards of base, also used 30 bags of Portland cement to mix in there to stabilize some of these areas from erosion. Crews also swept a total of 8 days. They mowed and trimmed 38 roadways and 6 alleys during the month. Signs, the crew repaired 3 signs using a total of 2 bags of ready-mix asphalt, ready-mix cement for those, and also during the installations, some of them were just to repair the signs as needed. Also, as far as signs are concerned, I did receive some of my speed limit signs that I had ordered a while back. I know we had talked about that last month. I think there was a sign that was an issue. I received them today, so I actually have those in my truck. So you'll see those start getting replaced, as well as some of the stop signs that we're going to start swapping out and also placing the skins on. So there should be quite a few different signs and installations put up for next month. Construction. The guys worked at the park for 4 days, different types of things, doing some hand patching in different areas, also removing some of the construction materials that have been left behind. We're still working slowly and diligently on removing that big old pile of dirt, rubble, and everything else that's behind the hoe shack field that's been left there. Crews trimmed and removed fallen trees, debris, and stuff like that. Hauled off 8 trailer loads of brush to the collection station. They replaced 24 trash carts during the month, delivered 3 additional carts, and also 18 new carts. One of the biggest things that was impactful for the month was the guys sprayed on 6 different days, completed all 5 districts as far as spraying for mosquitoes. Also, we used a total of 63 mosquito dunks. On the dunks, those are used to drop into areas that tend to pond water in different areas throughout the town. Every time we ended up with some kind of rain or whatnot, we waited a couple of days, dropped the dunks in there, and let them do their job. So with the dunks, I'd like to say that helped out tremendously to go along with the spraying. If you can catch them before they hatch and everything else from the larva, it becomes successful, just like noted at the event. I think it was nice. My family was there, they all enjoyed the movie, and we're pretty much mosquitoes free and everything else. So that was one thing that we had been trying to work on for quite some time. Weather wouldn't cooperate with the winds, because you got to have below 11-mile-an-hour winds in order to be out there spraying. There's different variables that go into all the spraying and stuff. So we're looking at, if we do get an opportunity, we'll crank back up and start spraying in some of these areas with the rain events that we had last week. So we'll be doing the same thing. We already started dropping dunks in certain areas again, but now we'll go back to doing some of the spraying throughout the district. As far as the park report, the crews dragged and swept the fields 14 days, removed trash from the receptacles on the sports complex, a total of 26 days, and did weed trimming around the fields for 12. Also during the month of June at the complex, we hosted 8 Little League games, which were of the All-Stars, and most of that was the junior boys using the large field. They reached out to us here recently to see if they could move some of their Little League games that they had scheduled for, I believe it was Edna and Industrial, just due to the fact that the fields were unplayable because of the recent rains. And we were able to accommodate with our Little League bunch playing there as well. We also have a summer program going on with the high school, and they were able to play 3 summer games so far. They're going to continue on through the month of July. We also had 2 successful USSSA tournaments. That's the people that leased the complex from us. We've had teams from Austin, Georgetown, Victoria, Belton, Houston. We had 2 teams out of Laredo, 1 out of Donna, 1 out of McAllen. So we're getting plenty of youth. There was a youth coming in to see the park. Also, we're getting a lot of the people that are there, at the facility using the kid park and actually the parkway as well. In between games, they get an opportunity and they go over there to the splash pad. They're having a blast. So everything that we have around the complex is helping draw a lot of positive attention to the town and utilize the sports complex. So it's been pretty successful as far as that's concerned, and getting a lot of exposure. We were scheduled to have a tournament this weekend. I believe there's a possibility of anywhere between 18 and 26 teams coming in this weekend. So with that, sometimes what it does is it also helps the revenue as far as for hotels and motels, the people from Houston, and Boston and everywhere else, instead of driving back and forth. Because normally on any given day when they're doing pool play, these kids will play an average of 5 games in the first day before they go into bracket play. So they usually like to have somewhere near to rest their heads and come back up early in the morning. First game normally starts at 8. Last game starts roughly at 10:30ish, 10:45, depending on the bracket. And then they come back in the following morning at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're gigging. So, it's been nice. Also, they're utilizing a lot of the restaurants. So that's good for the city of Kenedy. As far as the kid pavilion, the guys out there, the crew mowed and weeded 13 days, picked up trash 23 days, hauled off 2 trees on 2 different occasions. With some of the recent winds, we've had some of the larger branches snap off, so they just go in there, they'll trim them up, use one of the trailers, and haul them off. Also cleaned up the pavilion on 18 days. This time of the year, we get a lot of activity, a lot of people that enjoy renting the pavilion and using what we have out there. So these guys are out there on the weekends and picking up trash and making sure everything's set and ready to go as far as when they need the barbecue pits or just the pavilion itself. As far as the walking trail, bridge, courts, and gazebo, they were trimming and weed eating around there for 12 days. Picked up trash for 24 days, trimmed 2 trees, and then also worked on the volleyball court for 5 days. I know the volleyball court last month was one of the things that was being worked on. We were able to get sand. We've got 2 types of sand. We put down the heavy sand on the bottom. We cleaned everything out, removed all the sticker burrs and all the patches of grass and everything else that was in there. We dug it down roughly about 8 inches, and they started laying some of that sand down. and now they're going over the top with the lighter sand to where it makes it, it's a lot more, it's friendly for the players as far as when they throw dives and do different things on the feet. The lighter sand that goes on top isn't with the grains of the little bitty rock and everything else that the heavy sand is with, so it'll help sustain. As far as the lots in the soccer field, they mowed and trimmed for 7 days and also picked up trash in those areas for 12 days. As far as future projects, I didn't put it on any of the sheets, but we're looking and discussing, we've got Graham Road that's been one of the issues with the work that was done on the water line right there alongside of the gutter area. The guys have been out there working, trying to continuously replace some of that material that keeps washing out. I had the contractor give us just a kind of an estimate and a quote on what they thought that it would take to mill the pavement 2 inches and overlay it. And Mr. Lynn and I have been in conversation. We're putting a bid proposal together, and we're going to have to go out for bids just due to the cost of what the preliminary report came in. And it was actually under what I had thought it would come in at. So I was pleasantly surprised. It came in what I roughly estimated was probably about $12,000 under what I had estimated. So that was good to see. And that was actually going in there and taking into consideration some areas that they were going to have to probably do a full depth base repair, and some of the areas that are not as stable as the rest of the roadway. So there was an item in there for some of that. Also to go in there and replace some of the material that's in that trench where the water line was replaced. We also took into consideration those areas as well, as far as going back in there, recompacting, restabilizing at roughly 3%. So I was fairly pleased with that estimate that came back. Also in the works, and Mr. Lynn and I had discussed trying to go in there in-house and do a small level-up project off of Graham Road on Oasis, where we have a lot of that chatter coming off of Graham Road all the way to Booth Street, just to try to preserve what we have right now, and then for future projects it'd be a little bit easier to deal with. But, that's what I have. Do I have any questions?
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, please, sir.
My name is Don Stacks. If you don't know me, I'm a loudmouth. I think everybody knows me. We all know Graham Road's a mess. We all know rain has been terrible and good at both times. All the ranchers and farmers need the rain. But it's been going on for a long time, and I know I've seen guys out there patching here in the last couple of days. Do we have any timeline? And I know we have to consider rain and everything. Do we have a timeline as to when work is actually going to begin on Graham Road? My understanding, the whole thing was going to get paved all the way up to New Oasis, and even New Oasis needs work. Do we have a timeline on that?
Once we get the bid proposals taken care of, sent out, they'll have to come in with the estimates, and then once the estimates come in, that's when it comes to council. And
Well, when is that going to be?
Joe. May I?
Mr. Lynn,
can I address it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Certainly.
All right. So the way this works is, what we did was, we had some contractors who specialize in this type of work already in town. We wanted to see if we could do this without having to go through the traditional bid process, see if it was going to be under $50,000 or not. So we asked them to give us a rough estimate right off the top so we could kind of gauge where we were. Okay? And of course, as you know, Mr. Staggs, the rain hasn't helped us at all. So when we started seeing what they were charging, we knew immediately that we had to follow the state law's procurement policy because it was all over $50,000. So what we got to do is we got to draw up the package. So we got to put the specs together first, and then we got to advertise it in the newspapers and things like that. And we got to advertise it for at least 2 weeks. So like we use the countywide as one of our papers, and they only run once a week. So that'll be 2 runnings in the countywide. And then we have to have a closing date, which is usually a week after the last running with the countywide. And then we go through those, then we score them, which usually takes about a week to do that. We call everybody in, let them know who's got what, where we're at, and then we put it on the council's agenda. So we're looking right now, based upon the timeline, the September regular meeting is when we're hoping to have it in front of council for them to say, this is the person we're going to award the contract to. From that point there, we then give them X amount of time after they sign the contract to mobilize. And that's usually 10 days. And once they mobilize on this project, we give them 90 days to perform the work on the road to get it done. So we're talking end of December, latest, weather permitting, mind you, okay, that Graham Road from Nueces down is going to be taken care of because, and only because, of the cost of it. If the cost had been lower than $50,000, we could have already moved on this quicker. But once we find out that it was going to cost more than $50,000, our hands are tied by the government code. So that's where we are on that right now. And that's kind of what's been going on behind the scenes. And Councilor Sines, that's her district, I've spoken with her numerous times and let her know what's going on. So she is 100% aware of this. Councilor Rodriguez, who has fielded several calls, he and I have talked about this, and I've let him know this as well. So that's where we are. We were trying to find a quicker workaround, if you will, but unfortunately, we're bound by the statute at this point.
Quick is not always the best way.
That is correct. And the guys that we have in town, we feel very comfortable with them, both of them. But because we have to do what we got to do, we got to give everybody a chance. So you'll be seeing that ad break probably in about a week or two, depending upon closing dates for the paper. And then from there, the timeline will begin to get it
It's
done.
great. I've had a few people ask me, and I'm like, I'm not a city councilman, but you're city councilman. And that's why I'm asking this. So when people ask me, I'm saying, hey, here's the process. We could be looking November, wait, it just depends.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to know, and I appreciate you explaining in detail that
Yes,
very
sir.
much.
And if there's anyone that gives you any, questions or anything you can, shoot them my way. Tell them call me.
Okay.
Okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I did have one question. When you were talking about the mosquito spraying and the dunks,
Yes, ma'am.
I was really happy to see the bricks are gone from across the gallery. We have a big event coming up in a couple of weeks. But my concern is it's holding so much water. Have you done a dunk there also?
They
It's pretty full.
Yes, ma'am. They did one dunk. Actually, I believe they threw the dunk in today.
Excellent.
Because I'll have that on my desk, or it should be on my desk right now, as far as part of what they did today with their duties.
And a lot of times when the guys are out and about, anywhere where there's still water, like that place, the guys drop them in there. I've seen them dropping them, and that's where the mosquitoes lay their eggs. They don't lay their eggs in running water.
It'll
They
be
in
interesting.
still water.
It's going to be interesting to see how long that water sits there, since the bricks are gone for the first time.
ma'am.
I didn't realize there was so deep over there.
Does the rain wash the dunks out of the places where you place them?
Once you place them, they dissolve.
Okay.
Once they've dissolved, it takes over a few days for the dunks to dissolve, and that should kill everything that's already in the water. So then when the next rainfall comes or whatever, because when it's just sitting there, it's just ponding water is where we throw the dunks. Like Councilman Rodriguez was talking about, you can't do it in running water or anything like that. But wherever, because we have areas that are prone to stand water throughout the town. So these guys already know ahead of time where they normally go and throw dunks. We've actually added a couple of locations that we'll sit there and we'll document different areas that we're throwing the dunks that are a given. And then here recently with some of the soils that have been disturbed, stuff that's happened in the town, and we found a couple more, actually 3 more areas to where we've jotted down to where whenever we have a rainstorm, we know to go in that area and drop a dunk. Because if it's not one of the guys that's been here for a lengthy period of time, it wouldn't be known. So we just jot down the different areas and we just mark them as mosquito dunks.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's silly and maybe irrelevant, but with the dunks, are those safe for animals to be drinking that water as
Yes,
long
ma'am.
as it's standing there?
Yes, ma'am. According to the MSDS sheets, everything's good.
I have a question. Do we have a plan in place, or could we create a plan if we don't have one? Or this is a discussion on creating a walking bike trail, whatever you want to call it, to connect Joe Gully Park to Escondido Creek Parkway.
Yes, sir. We actually do have a plan in place. Mr. Lynn and I spoke about that about a month or so ago. With all the other projects that we have going on, that is one that we've looked at, about adding concrete ribbons to extend from that curve where it bends back down that county road, coming alongside of the high game fence all the way down, and we'll create a little bridge type thing to where we're actually going to look at adding two culverts, some RCP in there, probably 30-inch RCP, to connect from the side where the fence is at to come across and tie in to where we still allow the water to flow through there and get back to the parkway or to the creek. So that is in the works. Mr. Lynn and I spoke about a timeline trying to get that done, but it's just like anything else with the rain, and then we have all kinds of other projects that we've been working on, trying to keep up. Right now, the grass is kind of a killer for us right now, to go along with a lot of the pavement issues that we've had. When it comes to rain, rain does nothing better than destroy roadways, especially where you have some alligator cracking and stuff. It ends up turning into potholes. So we've seen tons of potholes, and over the course of 3 to 5 days, if you've got just a steady rain, it doesn't need to be a hard rain, but a steady rain that sits on top of certain roadway areas and whatnot, it will eventually turn into a pothole. So now we're battling new potholes to go with the ones that were existing. I know the guys were out on Graham today again. They were out on Graham, Nueces, Freeney, and Spool Street yesterday. So it's just a matter of trying to get a lot of the pavement issues taken care of, and try to jump on some of the grass areas as well.
There were some guys out on Escondido. They were mowing and along down toward Escondido, right all the way down toward Graham Road going up. So they were out there working hard.
Yes, sir.
Today I saw them.
Joe, I know you got a lot on your plate right now, but if this is more of a safety concern that I have on Business Park Drive. You know how we're going up to Walmart?
Yes, sir.
The striping on that street is no longer visible.
And Mr. Lynn and I discussed that last month or a month and a half ago, and tried to find the best solution as far as striping is concerned. I've been back and forth and trying to get a couple of contractors that I know that do the striping, and hopefully when they're in this area, some of the stripers and the striping companies that I've worked with in the past, they're never in this area. They do a lot of work with TxDOT, but I'll get with a couple of other ones that I do have good relationships with, and that have done jobs for TxDOT when I was with them in the past, and see what they can do for us. And we've looked at that area, and we're trying to designate it to where that center turn lane only goes so far, because it kind of tightens down. Once it gets past the driveway to go into the bank, it kind of squeezes down and bottlenecks a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit tight to run that continuous center turn lane all the way up to the subdivision that goes up top. But that's something that's in the work, and if not, what we'll do for now, if we have to, we can go in there and we can add some temporary striping. The only problem with the temporary striping that we have, it's not going to be retro-reflective with the beads in it. But it'll be visible during the day with the car lights. It will be visible, but non-reflective. And I want to make sure that we're in compliance with the FHA and everybody else that regulates a lot of the traffic and stuff.
I'm just concerned because, like, when people they can't gauge their distance, with not. You can hardly see it anymore.
Especially rainy weather.
Yes, and then we're having a lot of rain, and it's becoming a safety issue.
Yes.
And like I said, you got a lot on your plate, but we could try to do something about that.
Sure can.
And another concern that I have is Houston Street, vegetation hanging over. And I know right now, it's rough with manpower.
Yes.
But, we need to try to do something about Houston Street because the vegetation is coming out. That's always been a bushy area down there.
Yeah, that one's real tight. The easement that we have in there, that one pretty much gets weeded from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Just because of how tight it is from on the easement side. So
if we had a boom shredder, I mean, but, you know, that's on the wish list. But boom shredder, a lot of times, you know, you can just boom all the way down one side. You just got to be real careful and then come up the other side. And that pushes it back. You only use one man. But like I said, maybe that's something in the future that we can look into getting for some of your equipment.
Yes.
Any other questions from the council? I just want to thank you for all your efforts, especially in regards to mosquito control. It sounds like a combination of using the dunks and keeping the grass cut and spraying is really having a good effect, a positive effect. I know it's a difficult year with this much rainfall. It's hard to keep up with the grass growing.
Yes.
I say that from a personal perspective. But I want to appreciate your efforts. I see the crews out there working. I know they're working hard, running the mowers and the weed eaters and everything they're doing. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
The next item on the agenda under departmental reports, the city secretary report, Ms. Bevan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report is for the month of June. We did not have any new hires in the month of June, but we did have 2 separations. Animal control, streets, parks, and administrative positions started taking applications, and interviews began in July. The wastewater vacancy will be going for advertisement in the Karnes County and TML for the month of July. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it or not, but under the transparency tab for the current vacancies, or under the employment opportunities page, I have updated that, and we are now utilizing that for vacancies. And then the agendas and minutes under the transparency tab, I've updated that. So if you go on there, it is easier now to find the agendas, the minutes, and the packets for all boards and commissions, including council. So I did just get that updated, and I'm still working on that. It's a work in progress right now. For the fire department, there were 4 calls, 2 vehicle fires and 2 grass fires, and 1 elementary water bay. And the fire department reported 2,400 gallons of water used. For the court report, there was 148 defendants seen, and $28,548 was collected with a net to the city for $21,830.
Any questions from the council, from Ms. Bevan? If not, then thank you for your report. Next item on the agenda, item number 7, city manager report. Current projects, future projects, current operations, and/or future operations. Mr. Lynch? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. Okay, so starting off, we do our operations things. Mr. Higgins mentioned something about the drainage over on Nottingham and Robin Hood, and that is a future project. I don't recall if those of you that were here back in October when we, let's see, that would just have been Councilor Shines. Anyway, back in October, we applied for 2 GLO grants. One of them, as everyone knows, we have been awarded. That is for the water transmission line that's coming in. The other grant we applied for was a drainage project grant, which included numerous places throughout the city of Kenedy, but specifically Robin Hood, Bel Air, Nottingham. That area out there was included into this grant as well. Through getting the 1 GLO grant, I have come to learn from the representatives at the General Land Office that they are going to be doing a second disbursement, and this particular grant application that we have is in the running for, or I should say it's eligible to be concluded, to be into the second round that they're going to go through, let's say it like that. Okay, so we're kind of holding off to see if we're going to get a second award or not on that. Once we know whether or not we get the second award, then we'll move. If for some reason we don't get a second award from the General Land Office for this, then we will move right into figuring out a way to provide the residents out there some relief through a project that we will come up with and just do in-house and figure out a way to fund it. So I just want to let everybody know that we are actually addressing that, which is kind of slow. We're waiting on the General Land Office right now to see if it's going to be part of a grant for us. Okay. On July 29th at 5:30, I'll be doing my typical CM budget town hall here in the auditorium. This is open to all the residents. Council is invited to attend. There'll be a notice of potential quorum just in case you all show up. I just need to let everybody know this is an extremely relaxed environment. I will lose the tie that night. No action can be taken. I drive the ship that night. It is an education session on budgets, everything that goes into them. I kind of did this last year via Facebook Live, and Ms. Hines had me do it that way because of the COVID. But I typically like to bring in the residents that want to come, teach them about budgets, let them actually write a mock budget, and then they will actually have some say on some things. I do something else where I post some things around the wall and give them some sticky notes and have them tell me where they think they want stuff to go and that kind of a thing. So kind of gets them involved, expose them to the budgetary process and that, and kind of explain things to them from that nature. So we'll be doing that. We're still awaiting the contract for the GLO grant for the water line. That'll probably be around August. I do have some really great news. I talked to Alejandro Gonzalez today from Congressman Gonzalez's office. I'm going to try to say his first name.
Vicente.
What's that?
Vicente.
Vicente. Thank you, Mayor. Anyway, he called me and he said, hey, guess what? Congressman wants to come to Kenedy and wants to print you guys a check. So we talked about when could we do it. I told them we had a council meeting tonight if they wanted to fly into our beautiful airport. We could show them over and bring them here, but I guess that wasn't good. So anyway, so he had asked me about things, and I told him I was doing the town hall on the 29th. He said that would be a perfect time for us to show up. So council, mayor, if you could please earmark that night. We're going to have a congressman in town at 5:30. Huh?
That's the evening of the first day of the newly elected official conference.
Wow. I really created faux pas there, didn't I? Anyway, it's not
This is San Antonio, but
it's not. This is the tentative thing for the congressman right now this day. Okay, he's going to get back to me later this week and let me know firm time. But I want to put that out there because we definitely want to do the check presentation and get some snapshots and get a photo op with you guys, with the congressman, for those of you that will be here. It'd be a great opportunity. So I just want to let y'all know that's what's going on. I'll see maybe if he talks to me what we can do. I think we were like one of the first municipalities they called because they had no clue as to who else they had scheduled. So maybe we can get a little earlier.
I will definitely be there. That's a significant grant funding, and we're happy to get it. There's a lot of good things are going to happen for this city.
Yes, sir. Very much. So, you know, Ms. Bevan alluded to it a while ago. We were looking for an administrative assistant. I believe we've mentioned this before. This person is going to kind of be a jack-of-all-trades administrative assistant type person. They're going to perform quite a bit of duties. They're going to help our city secretary out with some of the things she does. They're going to help out with the HR, doing some things. But one of the nifty things we're doing with them, especially since the city of Kenedy has started to do all this stuff, is they're going to be what's called our events coordinator. So they're going to take over Christmas in Kenedy, the July 2nd movie in the park, the Labor Day Music Festival, and then they will also be our representative who will spearhead it from our point as we partner with the Chamber for Bluebonnet. So while Bluebonnet is the Chamber's baby, the city usually helps them and partners with them. Well, this person will be our representative who will coordinate it on behalf of the city. So this person is going to be out and about in the city talking to all the hotel managers, things of that, trying to arrange, deals for packages for these events, as well as when we have, as Mr. Hernandez was talking, all these UTSAs coming in and all that. They're going to be out there saying, hey, we have all these tournaments coming into town. What kind of packages can we get? It's going to be a very PR, very exposed position. We're really excited to have this position available. The only way we actually, we're down one in the front office, so that's, rather than have this person be just a utility billing clerk, we have expanded this role to help Kenedy move forward with all these things that are going on to making us a destination town rather than a town of last resort, so to speak. So we're real excited about that. We've identified an individual who we think has all the qualities that we're looking for, and that person is currently going through all the background checks and everything right now. So we're real excited, fingers crossed, everything cleans up there. So one big thing of concern I wanted to bring up here, and this is, if you all will please check your calendars for August the 19th at 6 p.m. That is when I wish to, yes, August the 19th at 6 p.m. That's when I want to schedule the budget workshop. That gives us about a month for me to get everything wrapped up with the team and get everything and get a presentable budget to you guys so we can sit down and go through that time. So that's well more than enough time. We have until September 30th to adopt it, and unless we're going to, I'm not going to say that. Anyway, we give us enough time. Okay. So if that works for everybody, what I would ask is just shoot me an email or a text message just saying that's okay, I'm good. That way I'll know, and if everybody's good, we'll book it for that night.
It works for me.
Okay, good. So moving into the projects, one of the things I want to address, one of the things that we're going to do this year, when I first came to Kenedy last year, we wrote the budget, we were in the middle of COVID, we had a lot of things going on, a lot of complex things going on, a lot of projects going on. We didn't need to undertake any more projects, we had too many going on at the same time. However, for fiscal year 21-22, one of the things that we are going to put into the budget this year is we're going to put into the budget 10 street repairs. And I'll need to be very clear as to how we're going to do this. We're going to do 5 streets and what they call a chip seal, which is basically you go down, you take a grader, you grade the road flat, you throw down basically tar and chip on top of it. Essentially, it's long and short of it's what you do. It's just an overlay, makes it look nice and pretty, and lasts a couple of years. That way we're good to go. The other is going to be what we're going to do on Graham Road. We're going to come back on 5 roads, and we're going to take them down 2 inches, we're going to mill them down, and then we're going to come back and overlay them with asphalt. So what you see on Pecan and what you will see on Graham is what we're going to do to 5 streets next budget year. Now, what I would like is for each council member to find me some roads in your district that you want done. One that you would think would be a good chip seal, and one you think would be a good milling or overlay. We're going to do 2 roads per district next year. So each district will get 2 roads done. So we're going to just spread it out over the whole time and do it like that. And that's how we're going to start this ball rolling in the city of Kenedy, getting roads done. I believe this is the most equitable way to do it. It's the most cost-effective way to do it. And it gets us going on a big print basis. So rather than just doing one district or here or there, or we think this road needs it, or we think that road needs it, and doing like that. This way, this gets all of our constituents something going and something to look forward to, and then we can start to narrow it down from there. So, again, once you all identify roads, just let me know what they are. If you have more than 2, that's super. Just give me all the roads you think, and then Mr. Hernandez and I will sit down and we'll go, look at it and we'll say, okay, now use you as an example. Councilor Schultz's district, okay, she's got this road, and this road, and this road, and this road. Well, we'll do this road, we'll do this one as a chip seal, we'll do this one as an overlay this time. And then we'll just hold on to all those ones you give us. Because if we get through the budget and we do that and it costs us less money, or after our mid-year budget adjustments that we do, if we have money available, we'll come back and start picking up roads that were on the list that didn't get done, and we'll start doing maybe a 3rd road if we can. So, but we want to start with 2. We want to give the residents a firm set. We're going to do 2 in each district next year, so that that can be set in stone. Okay. So, just if you guys would just do that for me, I appreciate it. East Main, Weather has not cooperated with that road at all whatsoever. The reason why we're doing these main is to give them relief from stuff like what's happened. Unfortunately, stuff has happened before we can give them relief. And I feel for them, but unfortunately, we can't control the weather. One thing we can control is, I believe, Councilor Parker and Rodriguez, and I believe it was Sines as well, all reached out to me. And I believe, Douglas, I think you reached out to me once too, regarding this. But there were some portions of East Main that had been poured and they had cracked. And while some cracking is normal for some of this stuff, the type of cracking and where it was strategically located was not and was unacceptable. And I made that clear in no uncertain terms. It was unacceptable and that they would fix it and they wouldn't ask me any questions. They're just going to do it and get it done. And they are starting to do that. They're starting to take out those old cracked parts and reform and relay and re-pour with what's there, making sure everything's good to go. So they are doing that at least now. Building C is substantially complete and it's operational. For those of you that did go to the July 2nd event and wandered over to try them, they're really nice on the inside. They're actually nicer looking in Building C than they are Building A. So we do have a few opportunities with that. We have to figure out some more ventilation, things of that nature, but other than that, they're really nice. Marshall Company did a great job on building those restrooms for us. On Building A, we're still waiting on the elevator to be completed. And they have communicated with us that they should be back on site August 12th to the 13th to complete the elevator in there, and then shortly thereafter we're going to have our ADA inspection of everything. So that's what we're waiting on basically on Building A. We have the CDBG sewer line grant going on out here off of Waco and Live Oak. The 6S Engineering, the engineers on record there, they've submitted their 100% completion plans to TCEQ, and they're just waiting on TCEQ's approval on those before we start to put it together and go out for a bid for contractors. Also, the Carrizo Waterline Project, well 17 is still waiting on the downhole well video, and the last test they ran for 36 hours on well 17, for 36 hours it maintained 1,511 gallons per minute. Well 18, the second well, they're waiting on the downhole well video and the state well report and the TCEQ cement report. We're still waiting on those three things. They got the bacteria report, water quality back from them, and all was good. And they did a 36-hour test on that. And that particular well ran 1,816 gallons per minute when tested for 36 hours. You've oftentimes maybe heard Mr. Higgins throw out the word number 1,600 gallons per minute. So we have one well in way excess and one well pretty close. And this is not at 100% capacity. These wells have the capabilities to much more than these test wells. So we're going to be in good shape when we get those wells up and running. So any questions on any of that?
So when they tested the well, you said it produced 1,816 gallons per minute?
Yes, sir.
And the full test was 36 hours long?
Right. They only run it's called a 36-hour test. And they measure different things like gallons per minute and drawdown of the well casing and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just wondering, what do they do with the produced water? That's a huge amount of water for 36 hours at that rate.
That water is diverted up there to the land.
Goes down the creek? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
It's just waste.
But you have to test. So it's an important part of the process.
So,
free water.
Yeah, of course, given some things, I don't know that I would want that water coming to Kenedy just yet. So, but it's
a work in progress.
It really is. It's really interesting because these guys do an awful lot when they do this stuff. And my granddaddy looked for water, and he took a stick, and he could find water with a stick. I couldn't figure out how he did it. I thought he was just playing with me.
Divining rod, yes.
These guys are really great at what they do. We really do have a really crack team of individuals helping this town right now. I mean, really, they are. I've talked to some people that I know in other parts of Texas, And I've mentioned some of these guys' names. They're like, oh, they work with y'all. I said, well, yeah, they do something. Nothing but praise. Nothing but praise for them.
I do have one question.
Sure.
About the well that we have been waiting on the video. It seems as though since I've come on as a councilman, we've been waiting for that video. How long does that normally take? I mean, what's the holdup to get that video off that well?
That first well, they should have already had it, and I'll get with Mr. Corzad to find out. Because Mr. Worsley just every time he sends and we talk, he says, we're still waiting on that video. So it's really one of those things that to me, at this stage in the game, it's important, but it's something that I'm willing to overlook until it gets pushed to shove. But now that I have a council member who's a little concerned, I will make that more of a priority, and I will ask Mr. Corzad where that is.
It's just been talked about it a lot, got a lot of, discussion about the video.
It was on our report last month too. Yeah. I mean, really, if y'all want, I'll take a video camera up there and stick it down. I don't know if that'll work. So, yes, ma'am. Anything else on the report?
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lynn on the top item under City Manager Report? Well, then we'll move on to presentation of financials. Okay, very good.
Okay, so I'm gonna, before I read the numbers, I'm gonna get off deviate just a second and explain something to y'all real quick, okay? Before we applied for the GLO grants, we had discussions with Doucette Engineering and Langford and Associates. At the time, Mr. Meyer was the councilman, and we talked with them about applying for this grant, and I asked all sorts of questions. And the one thing that came up was, if you do this, you will show them that you really need this water. And if you do this was, if you start drilling for the wells now. So what that did was, that put us drilling for wells that was not technically a part of the budget that I had written, that the City Council had approved. So we went ahead, and the governing body, we all went ahead, joined together. They said, do it. We did it. And we are where we are with the wells. Okay? I say that because we've spent, just on the drilling of the 2 wells, to the driller, we've spent just a little over $2 million. That money was not earmarked anywhere. So we have been paying these guys out of the funds that we have been receiving every month. Okay? So, what happens is, some of the things that we have discussed in private, we've moved money from the tax pool to pay for those things, which you all are all aware of that. But what we've done also, and we did this last month, was we moved money from our tax pool account to cover our bills. So rather than moving $2 million all at once, all we've done is take what we need to help cover our bills from the tax pool account. So when you look at the general fund's tax pool account at 2.9, that's one of the reasons why it's down from the 3.4 that it was last month. Okay, it's because we've moved money to do that, because we've been paying for this drilling of the wells out of what we've been getting coming in from our revenues. Okay?
So essentially, this is we will be reimbursed through the GLO grant funding.
Not for this.
Not for the well drilling?
No, sir.
That'll just be for the other infrastructure expenses?
Right, that'll just be for, right, the infrastructure and the putting in the lines of that. But and there are some things that we're going to end up in an executive session. When we do, I'll explain it to you guys there. Some things that's going on that you'll need to know, but it'll actually address your statement. Okay? So where we are with this is we're at 2.9 roughly in the general fund, and the hotel motel is about 2.2, the water and sewer is still at 853, and the paving fund is still at 2.4. Gives us about 8.5 in the total tax pool account. The cash in the bank at the time of the reports was 1.1. That left us with an available liquidity of 9.6. We still have 6 months worth of expenses, so we're still really good on our expenses overall. I mean, if we receive no more money coming in, we can pay our bills for 6 months. So we're good there. The general fund showed a revenue this past month of $1 million. I need to clarify that over $400,000 of that was the reimbursement check from the 4B for the complex bond that we paid. We finally got that in the bank. So we got that. So that's why that's up there. And then we had our percentage that we're pegged to is 47.79, and we're 3/4 of the way through our year, so our number is 75%. So we're still underperforming, but not, we're catching up, if you will. The water and sewer account, we did $646,000 last month. We're at 78.15%, so we're outperforming revenues there. And so we're looking good on the revenues total. We're still underperforming a little bit, but again, a lot of that's because when we go back to the fact of how we have moved money to buy land, that's not revenue. You can't book that to revenues, but you book it to expenses. So it kind of looks weird on these financials, but we're actually pretty good. So the expenditures were 1.18 in the general fund, puts us at 88.8%. So we are underperforming the budget there. Expenditures a little high because we took care of some things that we've talked about. We're in the process of finalizing some purchases that we've talked about, so that's where that's coming from. The water and sewer, they spent about $513,000. They're running about 67.41% of the budget, so they're outperforming the budget there. And we're pretty close at 80.47 total overall versus 75. We're still underperforming, but again, it's to be expected. The biggest thing, again, if you look at the yellow highlighted section down there where it says net increase or decrease, and it shows you the 3.7 million, that is roughly what the UP land was. So that's the major difference in whether we're performing, outperforming, or underperforming our budget, was the UP right away. So that's just kind of just a little gauge there for that. I'd like to do something a little different if council's not objecting, real quick. I have had a question from some of the newer council members about how to actually read the financials. And it'll take me all about 3 seconds to teach you how to read the financials, if y'all don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, very good. So all I've done is you can grab any of the financials that you have there in your packet. It doesn't matter which one you get, they all read the same. At the very top, you have a column that says current budget. Okay? That is the budget that's approved and adopted by the City Council of Kenedy, Texas. That number never changes unless we do amendments to that budget. Okay? Whether it be the revenue section or the expenditure section, that's what that number is. The current period number is what we did in the preceding month. Financials are historical 1 month. So that number is what we did last month. So in revenues, that's what we took in, and expenditures is what we spent. Okay? The year-to-date actual, that's just an accumulative total of every month of the fiscal year of the current period numbers through the printing of this financial statement. So that number is inclusive of the current period number. Okay? The percent of budget is the percent that we've spent year-to-date versus the current budget number. Okay? So at the very top of all your financial statements, usually about right here under where it says the page number, okay? You see right there underneath the page number, right? You see the page number? Right there, where it says 75%, Councilor Parker, you see it? Okay, that tells you where you should be on your financials. How much money should we have used and consumed? That tells you how much of a percent we should have consumed at the printing of this financial statement. Okay? Keep in mind when you're reading these, That number is your benchmark. If you are higher than that number, and it is a revenue, thumbs up, you're doing great. If you're lower than that number and it's a revenue, thumbs down, you're not doing so good. It's the opposite for your expenditures. If your expenditures percentage is higher than that number, you're spending more than you're supposed to. If it is less, you're spending less than you're supposed to. Okay? So, just to kind of give you a quick gauge as to how to do that. And then the budget balance column, that is the remaining dollars left on the budget. And you get that number by taking your current budget number and subtracting your year-to-date actual number. That gives you your budget balance number. As long as that number doesn't have brackets, you're good. If it's in expenditures and doesn't have brackets, you're good. If it has brackets and you're in the revenues, you're good. Because you're over, you make more money than what you budgeted. So there you go. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Y'all, okay, all right. So you have any questions about our the financial condition of the city?
Any questions from the council? I think that covers it, Ms. Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This section shall provide for items that require action by the council, where little or no discussion is anticipated, by a single motion, second, and affirmation majority vote. Items under this section are approved without further discussion or action. Item number 8, consideration and approval of City Council workshop meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021, regular City Council meeting minutes of June 8th, 2021, and City Council special meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2021. Is there any discussion or questions regarding consent agenda item number 8? I'd just like to say to Ms. Bevan that I've reviewed all these minutes and they are excellent. The minutes and the agendas are as good as I've ever seen them in the city of Kenedy. We appreciate your work on this. Very accurate, very detailed, enough detail where it's needed, and then not overly lengthy in other areas. So really excellent work. Appreciate it. If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion on consent agenda item number 8.
Go ahead and make a motion that we accept and approve City Council workshop meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021, regular City Council meeting minutes of June 8th, 2021, and City Council special meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2021.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Rodriguez and a second from Councilmember Parker. Ms. Bevan, if you'll call the roll.
Councilwoman Schultz?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Mayor Baker? I'm sorry. Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Councilman Douglas?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 9, consideration and approval on financials. Any discussion on consent agenda item number 9? Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion on consent agenda item number 9, consideration and approval on financials.
I'll make a motion to approve city's financials.
I'll second it.
A motion from Councilmember Douglas, second from Councilmember Rodriguez. Ms. Bevan, if you'll call the roll.
Councilwoman Schultz?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilman Douglas?
Yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, consideration and possible action regarding presentation by Clay Beatrick with Asset Protection Group. Good morning, Mr. Beatrick. Thank you for coming this evening. Just for everyone's information, Mr. Beatrick reached out to me because he'd heard all the great news about what's in the future plans for the city of Kenedy and the large investments in infrastructure that we're on the verge of making, and he had something that he thought we might be interested in considering as a way to protect these assets, which I know if we're going to invest the amount that we've got coming up over the next several years, that We certainly want those infrastructure investments to be to the best benefit to the city of Kennedy and all the people here. So Clay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to introduce myself and my company, and the opportunity to speak in front of you guys tonight. So thank you. On a personal note, my name is Clay Gadrick. I grew up down the road in Falls City, born and raised. Graduated from Texas A&M, and now I live in New Braunfels with my beautiful wife and 2 kiddos. But, you know, hoping sooner rather than later to one day move back here to Karnes County and raise our kiddos outside the city. A little bit about our professional experience. My business partner and I, we have a combined 25 years of experience managing and constructing water infrastructure projects. And one thing about water infrastructure is it's a niche market. It's a specialty product, if you will. For example, you know, in the water tower world, there's only a handful of players in the game. There's only 2 or 3 contractors that build the elevated storage tank. You got another handful that do the concrete ground storage tanks. And then the same can be applied for your large wastewater treatment plants and stuff like that. So when I say we worked for the contractor, what I mean is, you know, we didn't work for a large firm and we weren't hands-off managing from a distance, you know. We had in-house engineers that took care of the design work. Project management, you know, I procured the material. I worked with the guys in the field to ensure the product was there. We handed it over to the owners. And then we even had parts of our company did rehab and service calls for some long-term repeat customers of ours. So I throw this out there today just to let you guys know that myself and my team, we are extremely, we know the process of the design, bid, build work, especially in the water infrastructure market. We know the process and the way the games are played extremely well. So back to our experience, combined, we've managed and constructed well over $1 billion worth of water infrastructure all over the country. And these facilities range anywhere from elevated storage tanks, you know, your water tower facilities, to your wastewater facilities, big pump stations, backwash facilities, etc. And with our tenure there, you know, we've built infrastructure from municipalities and small water supply corps all over the country again, like, you know, built the water tower there in Karnes City, but also some of the largest utilities in the country like SAWS and WSSC for Maryland. So every year, hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on water infrastructure projects, if not more. It just said hundreds of millions, but it may be over $1 billion, right? And with these projects, we spend an ample amount of time, as you guys already know, just listening here tonight, in the planning, in the designing, and the constructing of these facilities. You know, as the city manager mentioned, you know, the bid process. We hire these consultant engineers. They help with funding. They design the plans and the specifications. We get the bid package out. We go and we hope to choose the best contractor based on safety and price and several other components. And then during construction, you know, we hire third-party inspectors, and we have these big milestone inspections to assist and curb the quality of these projects. And then one last time before final completion, you know, operations guys, our public works guys will get out there with their red tape and they'll start making the punch list that's 3 pages long for the contractor to complete before he hands it over. So we do everything we possibly can to make sure that these contracts and these projects are built with quality workmanship, following the specifications and following the contracts. However, once these projects reach final completion and these consultant engineers and the contractors and all the inspectors, everybody leaves town, what do we do as owners and as the end users? What do we do to ensure that we get the most out of our multi-million-dollar investments? This is where APG steps in. So whether it's a completely new system, an upgrade, or even an existing facility, it is critical that these systems are planned, constructed, commissioned, operated, but also maintained in a manner that encourages the system to meet or exceed its useful life. Our services result in facilities with improved reliability, enhanced operations, intact warranties, and a solid record of all maintenance and inspections. So I founded Asset Protection Group, APG, for 3 reasons. One, to extend the life of our capital investments. Right, we're spending millions and millions of dollars. This is a grant. A lot of times it's not. We just don't, for some reason, or several reasons, our assets just aren't reaching. The design life is 15 to 30 years. I've seen folks have to do major rehab at 5 years. Number 2, reduce unexpected downtime. Nobody plans for downtime. Downtime puts a lot of stress on the system, or it could be even worse. And then ultimately drive down operating costs. We achieve this by developing, implementing, and managing what we call our Operation Compliance Plan, or you'll hear me referencing as the OCP, and I'll provide a little more detail on that here in a little bit. But before I do, I wanted to touch base on a couple areas that, in our experience, we know to be problematic for water infrastructure end users and owners. Warranties. So similar to the vehicles that we drove here parked outside, our infrastructure projects and contracts come with their own warranties and guarantees. But just like the warranties on your vehicle, our construction warranties come with their own sets of fine print and requirements to maintain those warranties. So if these recommendations aren't followed and documented, we run the risk of voiding the warranty and therefore making the warranty claims difficult or unsuccessful. An example I like to use, you buy a brand new Ford pickup, you drive it 100 miles an hour, 15,000 miles, the engine blows up, you take it to Ford and complain, they gave you a bad truck. First thing they're going to ask you for is, did you get a service? You say yes, they're going to prove it, show me the documentation. Right, so that same thought process right there for maintaining the warranties on this new infrastructure. To stick with the vehicle analogy is the preventative maintenance. So once our warranties run out, the 30,000 mile warranty on the vehicle or 60,000 mile warranty, we don't neglect the truck. We want to get 200, 300,000 miles out of it, so what do? We keep following those manufacturer recommended, the manufacturer service recommendations, right? So this same thought process applies to the infrastructure assets. So whether it's as easy as operating the gate valve out in the street or checking the lubrication on one of our wells and motors, all of our assets require some sort of maintenance. And it is in the user's best interest to take proactive approach to the maintenance. Otherwise, we increase the likelihood of unexpected downtime or premature repairs or replacements. So an example I like to use that kind of puts all this into perspective is the coating system that we use in water towers, right? So our consultant engineers, they specify the type and how the coating system is to be applied. During the construction, we have endless amount of inspections and record keeping capturing the application process. However, even with all of that, there's no way for us to ensure with 100% confidence that every square inch of that water tower is painted correctly. So to make up for this, most contracts, I'll say every contract I've ever been a part of on the construction side, specifies a 1-year anniversary walkthrough to be performed by the contractor free of charge to the owner. It is understood that any questionable workmanship, quality, or defective materials will show themselves in the first year of operation. So during this 1-year anniversary walkthrough, literally you're going over everything with a fine-tooth comb, and any issues that are found at that 1-year walkthrough are replaced, and the contractor pays for it, free of charge to the owner. So specific to the coatings, this walkthrough, you would basically drain the water tower. So you got a little bit of downtime there. You drain the water tower, you go over it with a fine-tooth comb. You're looking for any weak areas, or what we call pinholes. And what these will look like is, just a little dime or a quarter size, maybe a bubble, or maybe even a little bit of corrosion seeping through the coatings. Found at the 1-year walkthrough, these repairs are minimal. We're talking minutes, if not an hour, for a guy to hit it with some sort of sanding, a hand sander, and then you can apply a coating patch that is quick to return to submersion, and you're talking hundreds, maybe a couple $1,000s, 1,000 $ max, to repair this coating system at the 1-year anniversary. Once these areas are repaired at the 1-year walkthrough, so now the coating system as a whole has a much better chance to reach its design life. So these coating systems, whenever the contractors and these coatings reps sell them to us, they talk about a 15-year or a 30-year lifestyle. Well, that's if everything was perfect. If the contractor did his job, if the coating was mixed perfect, if everything was perfect, you'll get 15 to 30 years out of these coatings. So we as end users need to do everything possible to make sure that we get our 15 to 30 years out of it. Well, unfortunately, these follow-up 1-year inspections rarely occur. And when I say rarely, so out of our combined 25 years experience, I've been called back less than 10 times to do a 1-year anniversary inspection. So with any issues in that coating system, they won't be found until it reaches a point where it's affecting the water quality or even worse, the integrity of the steel structure. Right? So regardless, this will be several years down the road once the warranty's gone, once the contractor's long gone. So at this point, that easy repair I just talked about with a quarter or dime size repair now turned into a much larger project. You're probably bringing in a consultant engineer, developing a full containment system so you're not getting overspray and sandblasting neighboring houses and vehicles. But ultimately, the owner's paying for those repairs. So what do we do about all this? Again, the key component of our services is the development, implementation, and management of what we call our Operation Compliance Plan, which is the OCP. And what the OCP is a proactive maintenance plan supported by our software system that we developed in-house. So our approach is inventory and tagging all of the assets. And when we say assets, we mean the individual components that make up the facility. So not just the water tower, right, but down to the valves and the pumps and the motors that make up the full operation and functioning system. And then once you have your list of assets, we capture all the maintenance and inspection requirements for each individual component or asset in the system. We gather all that information, we put it into our software, and once it's developed and implemented, we provide management support to the end user, to operations, to public works operations, in various forms, including work orders, scheduling, reminder notifications, and record keeping. And then once these work orders are completed, we file and maintain those records. So not only are the records important for historical data, so you can go back and look to see, how much life you got out of a certain valve or a control valve or piece of equipment, but also for warranty claims. Right? Going back to the truck analogy is, if you have a problem with something 2-3 years down the road, and if you don't have the record keeping to back it up, you have no claim to make against the warranty. So our OCP, the result is a facility with improved reliability, enhanced operations, intact warranties, and a solid record of all maintenance and inspections. In addition to the OCP, our software can also track and maintain numerous other inputs beneficial to management. Some of these include the asset's design life or useful life, its remaining useful life, replacement costs, maintenance costs, asset condition, or if you want to track depreciation, we can track that as well. But not only can our software be a tool to assist with year-to-year budgeting and finances, fully utilizing the OCP and our software can assist with the modified approach in GASB 34 compliance as well. So I'll wrap up my presentation with what I would recommend is the next steps for the city of Kenedy. And what we would recommend is, first and foremost, is take care of what you got first, right? So all of our existing assets. I heard it a couple times a day that our infrastructure is aging, but just because it's aging, it's never too late to start taking care of it, right? So the first thing we would recommend is an inventory of all of the facilities and individual assets, and then get those assets and facilities under an operation compliance plan. For this new construction you guys are going to be undertaking here pretty soon, I can't stress enough the warranty language that you're going to see in these contracts. City Manager, I'm sure you're aware of them. Also, what's unique to this to the water infrastructure world is a lot of this stuff started out as design build. Well, with that came contractors are the ones that develop the specifications. So if you're not careful, there'll be fine print back in the specifications that are contradictive to what's best for the owners. And a lot of times those the fine print back in the back of the specifications are written to benefit the contractor rather than to benefit the owner. So in your new construction, that warranty language is something I would really recommend you guys looking into, that we could help out with there. One thing I didn't talk about, but it's out there, is leveraging our history in contract and construction management. You know, a lot of folks like to hire construction managers or in-house inspectors and stuff like that. That is something that we do as well. And we come at a fraction of the cost of the big dogs like Freese and Nichols and those guys. But then ultimately, you know, when this new construction is being, when it's getting into the construction process, but before we reach that substantial completion and they start handing us the keys to these new systems, is to get that proactive maintenance plan in place, the OCP process in place. So this concludes my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you guys see the benefit and value we can add to the team. And we would love to support your efforts as the city of Kenedy grows and takes on these once-in-a-lifetime projects. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from the council members?
I have a question. What does it cost the city?
So I tried to research you guys' public works facilities and looking on Google Earth, and so I'm not real familiar with exactly how many facilities you guys have, but just looking at the size of y'all's city, I would say somewhere that initial to go and inventory all the existing assets and stuff would be somewhere $20,000 to $40,000, and then based on the number of assets, we typically charge a yearly or monthly fee to manage that OCP plan.
So the ongoing cost would be based on how many assets we have?
Yeah, right now it's anywhere from $1,000, $10,000 a year to $12,000 a year.
And does that include like all the software that you were talking about?
Correct. Sitting down with you guys and going over reports, or like I said, with the GASB 34 compliance, running those reports, whatever you guys need.
You mentioned one of your clients is the city of Karnes City.
No, sir. That was in my history of contracting. That elevated storage tank was one of my last.
That's the one on 181, the new one that just got added.
Yep. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering if you had any local examples in the general area of where this has been effective for the cities that you offered it to.
So my closest one here is in Dripping Springs, and then I'm currently in the process of getting the city of Farr down in the valley.
Was that a water storage facility, or what type of infrastructure was that? Dripping Springs.
Dripping Springs is lift stations, pump stations, 2 ground storage tanks, 3 well sites, and 2 elevated storage facilities.
Mr. Lynn, do you have any questions?
Oh, I'm good.
Any other questions from the council? It sounds like what you have to offer is a system and expertise in getting the most value out of these water infrastructure investments, such as I think we may be considering a 1 million gallon water storage tank in our near future. And I like the idea of taking care of it as we go forward. We've been managing some expenses with other water storage facilities here in town that we can see how expensive it gets real quick if it's not maintained. And I'd like to see those dollars be as stretched as far as they possibly can. So I really appreciate your presentation. I hope all of us will look into it further and see if we want to take another step towards utilizing your services. But thank you for coming here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Brings us to item number 11 on the agenda. Consideration and possible action in regard to funding the Karnes County Flood Protection Planning Study project number 40011, awarded for the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Fund to produce a flood planning study in Karnes County to include the city of Kennedy. The city of Kennedy's local match portion is 1.5% in the amount of $12,375. Presenter on this is City Manager Lynn. Mr. Lynn?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so Judge Hedke and Karnes County went out and they got this TWDB grant, and they're doing the whole county for flood studies. And one of the great things about this is it's going to include all the areas in the city of Kenedy, not just one particular area. But the grant is a match, and so Judge Hedke in the county is asking each of the 4 municipalities in the county to only provide $12,375 towards the match. We will benefit greatly from this. This will help us out to be able to plan things out for the future with the city. That one grant we're looking at from the GLO, as well as any other infrastructure projects we want to do, or even to attract roofs or businesses to town, we'll be able to use this and that data we gather from that, assisting us in all of that area too. So this would just be a line item vote by the council tonight, just to approve the expenditure of those funds, since it was a non-budgeted item.
Mr. Lynn, where will we take this money out of?
I would have to actually look to see where I would grab this, but right off the bat, I would just pay it out of our pool cash account, just to go ahead and get Judge Hedke the money so that they can have that to be taken care of. I probably, since it's a flood study, will pull it out of the Water and Sewer Department.
Any questions from the council for Mr. Lynn?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on this item? If there's no further questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion at this point.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the flood protection planning study, project number 40011, awarded to the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Fund to produce a flood planning study in Karnes County to include the city of Kennedy. With the city of Kennedy's local match portion is 1.5% in the amount of $12,375.00.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Rodriguez and a second from Councilmember Douglas. Ms. Bevan, if you'll call the roll.
Councilwoman Schultz?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilman Douglas?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 12, consideration and possible action in regard to ordinance number 21-09, an ordinance of the city of Kenedy, Texas, ratifying, extending, and expanding the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, providing for filing this ordinance and updating map, providing for savings, repealing inseverability, and establishing an effective date. The presenter on this is City Manager Lynn. Mr. Lynn?
Thank you. Okay, so the government code allows a municipality of our size to move its extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ, a half a mile each year. You can only do it once. A lot of times what will happen in municipalities, you'll get a savvy council or a savvy city manager, and they'll stand in front of the council in December and say, let's move our ETJ. And you move it, and they'll come back in January and say, hey, guess what? Let's move our ETJ again. So you get a half a mile in 2 months. This is something that's completely separate from the annexation we did with the property that we bought. When we bought that property and we moved our municipal borders, that's a totally different animal. We got a half a mile immediately from there, up 181. What we're doing with this ordinance tonight is you take every avenue, every road that goes into the city of Kenedy, if you look at the map, and we're taking where we are currently, which is the purple, and we're going a half a mile from there in every single direction. So currently, just to give you an idea of how that plays out, something might be visual to everybody. Okay, on my team left. Okay, so Councilor Rodriguez, help me with the name of the street. Elliott Electric is on that street.
Elliott Electric out
Yeah.
there, that's Park Place Avenue.
Park Place Avenue. Okay, Park Place Avenue is right on the cusp of our ETJ. Okay, we'll be going a half a mile from Park Place Avenue up 181 towards Kern City. So what that does is it does a couple of things. Once we get our ETJ moved, we can then get building code fees and that from any buildings in the ETJ. And additionally to that, everybody who's within our ETJ and congruent to it at the end, should they decide to annex, they must annex into the city of Kenedy. They cannot annex anywhere else. So that's another thing that the ETJ does, protects our municipality for future growth as well. But I've got to make sure that I preface this by saying this. The annexation we did encompassed roads and land. The ETJ is just up the pavement. That's all it is. It's just pavement. So we're just going up the pavement. So whatever touches that half mile of pavement, all that's in our ETJ, and all that would have to come to the city of Kenedy if they chose to annex in, or if we ever became a home rule and went to an annexation plan. So, but we get to do this once a year. So we're going to go, plan on going ahead and doing this now. I will say I did wait until after we did the annexation to do this, so that we can get the best bang for our buck. But now we won't be able to do this again until January of 2022. So, any questions?
Any questions from the council? I have one. I'm looking at the map here. This is the proposed expansion of ETJ. The dashed lines represent what our new ETJ will be if this is approved.
Let me look and see here. I think this was printed off in black and white instead of color. So I might get a loss here. Wait a second. There we go. Okay. So wow, yeah, it's in black and white instead of color. All right. So if you look at the map, okay, you'll see little writings and little lines. Those are current ETJs. And then the dashed lines beyond those writings will be where it's going to. Okay? Does that make sense, Mayor?
Well, like for example, part of this is 181 south of Kenedy, correct?
Right. Yeah, right. So
these dashed lines here, that shows what the proposed.
That's our property that we own. Okay? And so that's where we are right there. This is where we are today. And then if the council approves this, we'll be all the way up there.
Oh, I see. You're extending it.
Right, we're extending it.
The ends of it. Okay.
The council does. Okay, good. Show you online. So essentially, because this is in color, so there's two different colors. So here's the property you just bought. This is where we are today. And then if you guys approve it, we'll be all the way up there. Okay?
So, for example, 181, the new ETJ will be a little farther south.
Yes, sir. Closer to Pettis.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You got it. Council, please. Okay, I'll show you. So this is the property we own. This is where we are today, this line right here. This is where we go if you guys agree. Okay, so it's the way out here, all the way out there. So we'll go out here, and then we go over here. No, that's just ETJ. That doesn't protect our rights to grow, the people who want to come in. And then if anyone builds out there by the prisons in our ETJ, I need us to go out there and charge them, things like that.
Will this affect the police department in regards to their patrols, or?
No, sir. Police department can only patrol within the corporate limits.
Okay. So if you could just recap one more time the advantage of expanding our ETJ, and are there any disadvantages?
So the advantages of expanding our ETJ is, number one, it protects the city for growth. Because anybody who's congruent to the ETJ all the way up to the very end of it, if they decide to annex anywhere, they have to annex to the city of Kenedy. They can't go into any other municipality. Okay? Also, anybody who builds anything in there, we get to, in our ETJ, we get to take care of all the codes and all that. They have to abide by our codes for all that.
So that could be a benefit to the public
That's
safety.
a very big benefit, yes, sir, because of the fact if they annex in, they're coming into the city. Okay, we can also, in the ETJ, provide water and sewer services. It'd be out of city limits if it's out of our limits, but we can still provide water and sewer if people needed to, at whatever it would cost to get them that day. The downside to it, really isn't any. I like to use the example of that one little town I was in, Valley Mills. We had an airport that was down the road. It was 3 miles from the city limits, and Waco was our neighboring town. And Waco was like a half a mile from the road our airport was on. And we had no way to get our ETJ to that airport because it was 3 miles away. So our airport was actually vulnerable to Waco overtaking it, putting it at CTJ. So that's just kind of the difference. Here in Kenedy, we're not faced with that, fortunately, but this will help us in the future. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Lynn? Any further discussion of this agenda item?
And one thing I might add, because I never know what the future is going to hold for any of us, what you have in your hands is the proper legal way to expand your ETJ. You've got to have every road surveyed. And so when we file this with the county, there's no way anybody can object, but we've done all our homework. We've done it right. So.
If there are no further questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 21-09.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Douglas and a second from Councilmember Parker. Ms. Bevan, if you'll call the roll.
Councilwoman Schultz?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilman Douglas?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 13. Consideration of possible action in regard to the selection of a grant administrator for administration of the Texas CDBG Community Development Fund grant awarded to the city pertaining to sewer line improvements, and authorize the city manager to enter into professional services agreement for grant administration with the selected firm. Mr. Lynn, do you have a presentation?
Yes. Okay, this one plays off of last month when we talked about that we had a grant administrator for this CDBG grant that we have over here on Waco and Live Oak. However, that person worked with an engineering firm that we no longer do business with and we no longer wish to do business with. So we went back out for RFPs on this. We submitted to 3 companies as per the way I'm supposed to do it. And of those 3 companies, only Langford responded. So that is why we only have Langford's stuff here. They were the only company to respond to us on that. We scored it. Of course, we have history with Langford that's favorable. I've worked with Judy before, so I know she does a great job with everything. So that's why you have Langford's there. So tonight, essentially, you would either elect to award it to Langford, or you would direct me to redo it all over again. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Lynn?
Very good.
I think we're all familiar with Langford and the excellent service they've provided us, especially over this past year. If there's no further discussion or questions, I would entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we appoint Langford Community Management Services as grant administrator for administration of the Texas CDBG Community Development Fund grant awarded to the City of Kenedy pertaining to sewer line improvements, and authorize the city manager to enter in a professional services agreement for grant administration with this selected firm.
We have a motion from Councilmember Rodriguez and a second from Councilmember Schultz. Ms. Bevan, if you'll read the roll, please.
Councilwoman Schultz?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilman Douglas?
I abstain.
We have 3 in favor with 1 abstention. Motion carried. Item number 14, items to consider for placement of future agendas. Does anyone have any items to bring forward at this time? I don't have any items to bring forward, so that being said, no action is needed. We'll move on to item number 15, announcements of community interest and/or upcoming events. Does anyone have any announcements? Yes, sir.
I think it's important that we bring up Counselor Schultz's
I was
16th
going-
birthday.
I have that on my list here. I was going to give the council.
do it again.
Yes.
I'll send the invitation.
There's 2 big deals coming up. This Friday is the Kenedy Chamber of Commerce's 100th chamber banquet. And myself and my wife are planning to attend, and I hope some of you are as well. They are wonderful events. If you've never been, they're a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to get out and talk with your neighbors. It's this Friday right here where we're sitting, City Hall Auditorium. I've been told that it's going to be transformed into a place that you will not recognize as City Hall Auditorium. I wish Jolene Terwilliger is the Chamber's executive director, and I wish she was here. She's normally here at most council meetings. She's not here tonight. She could give you more detail about the event. But I just wanted to mention that since it's this Friday at 6 p.m. Last I heard, there were still a few tickets available. I don't know if that's true.
Sold out there.
Oh, are they sold out now? Well, then it's just an announcement of public interest, and looking forward to it for everybody. And then the second item, of course, is July 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m., 16th anniversary of 2nd Street Gallery. So looking forward to that.
I'm excited about it.
Let everybody know it. That's incredible. 16 years goes by pretty quick, doesn't it? And I was unable to host the second Saturday Coffee in the Park with the mayor because the park was flooded and closed. But I'll be doing that again as I do every second Saturday, excuse me, August 14th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Any other announcements? If not, then I'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.